Hello and welcome along to Mondo Chalavet Movies. My name is John and this video is going to be my top 10 silent films of all time. Now this list is compiled as of the 19th of September 2021. So why do I like silent movies? I've grown up with silent movies actually when I was a young kid. I used to watch Harold Lloyd and Charlie Chaplin on the TV all the time and really enjoyed it. My favourite stars from back in the day are Laurel and Hardy. And I didn't appreciate their silent movies at all. Actually, when they were on the TV, I would just skip them. I wouldn't even bother watching them because I used to like the banter between the two characters. But on reflection, I can say I can appreciate them now. They're not me. I do prefer the talky ones with Laurel and Hardy because I think they're more humorous. But the silent ones still have a lot to offer. I think of them as a sort of time capsule because a lot of the movies I'm going to talk about today are they're either 100 years old or nearly 100 years old. And it's incredible to me to think that these things still exist. It's incredible to me that these things are looking quite good actually. And I do think that when these come up to their 100-year anniversary, I can see a 4K disc coming out of these movies and I can see them looking really good as well. So a lot of these movies you see on here are going to be on the Eureka label, and I think the Eureka do an absolutely amazing job with these old films. They can restore them to the best of their ability. They can find stuff that has been previously lost. They can resurrect these movies that will be actually probably long gone and long forgotten about. And if you are sitting on the fence with silent movies, try some of these movies out. You might be pleasantly surprised. These movies are readily available. I don't think any of them are out of print. And you might be surprised at how much fun you can have with these movies. Some of the movies in this list are so engaging. The storylines are so amazing. Yes, there's no language in it, but some of them don't need it. And I tell you what, if they made like a talking version of some of these movies, I think they would spoil it. I think some of these movies need to be seen in a silent format. So let's start with a few honourable mentions before I get into my top 10. First, I'm going to talk about the 2011 film, The Artist. Now, when this came out, I was very interested to see what it was about. And what it does is it tells you the story of how artists or film stars at that point in 1928, 1929 were trying to make the leap into talkies, and some of them just didn't do it. They were massive stars as silent artists, but they could not make the transition through to talkies because sometimes their voices didn't suit the person who the people thought they were. When you watch the film, you would think that person is definitely this, and when they come out with a really different accent, people were put off with it. A lot of the film stars from the silent era did fail. And they didn't make the transition, and this film deals with that in a really good way. It's absolutely spectacular, and it does actually look as if they've tried to make the special effects are there, but you can't tell they're there. They've made sort of backdrops of 1920s Hollywood, and you would think it was just like a set, but most of it's digital, and it just looks incredible. So all these films were shot in a square frame. Now that means you will get, when you watch these, you will get black bars on the side of your picture. That's just the way it is. You need to see the full frame. If they cropped it, you would get bits missing off the tops and bottom. And I think a film should always be shown its original ratio, whatever that ratio was. So if you want to get a movie and find out a little bit kind of about what the whole silent movie was all about, this is a great place to start. So that's The Artist, 2011. Next honourable mention is Modern Times by Charlie Chaplin. Now this movie was made in 1936. Now a lot of people will say, well, in 36 you had talk movies because they came in 1929 to 1930, and you'd be quite right. This movie is deliberately shot as a silent movie. Charlie Chaplin went back to his roots in this movie, and it's so funny and so well done. It's as if he's kind of went into the, with modern sort of formats of technologies and sort of in special effects, and he's used them as if he was making a sort of updated silent movie, and it really works as well. To be honest, it's one of the best later Charlie Chaplin films I see. Now I think that Charlie Chaplin doesn't make a great transition into the talkie era. I think he's much better as a silent movie star, personally. That's my personal opinion. And this movie sort of gives you that. It gives you like an updated like bigger production of a classic silent movie that he couldn't have made probably in 1926. So that's 1936's Modern Times. Next up is Unshine Andalu, roughly translated an Andalusian dog. Try saying that after 10 pints. Now this movie is from 1929 and is 16 minutes long, and it was directed by Salvador Dali. Now this isn't a movie, the movie is actually a special feature on here, and it is so bizarre. It's as if David Lynch has went back in a time machine and made a film, black and white film. It doesn't make any sense. It is so crazy, and it just stands out as a real sort of. I can't imagine what they thought about this movie when it came out in 1929. I can imagine people scratching their heads a lot, because I think that some of the movies on here are quite sort of, they've got to rely on the visuals, of course they do, because they've got nothing else to do with apart from music, which I would imagine would have been played live as at the cinema when they were watching the movies, because obviously there was no soundtracks at that time, hence there was no people speaking. They couldn't actually record anything at that point, or even put it onto the screen when they were playing it. I think they used to play it through a record player as well when they first started, I believe, and or record it onto a record. So yes, this movie is very strange, and it's a great. And the other movie on here, L'Âge d'Or, which is the Golden Age, I believe, is equally as good, but that's a talkie. And this movie here is one of the ones that you think, wow, David Lynch must have seen this movie. So that's Un Chien Andalou. Hope I'm saying that right. So first up at number 10 is 1926's Faust. Now this is directed by F.W. Murnau, who was a big director back in the day. Tragically, his life was cut short in a motor car accident. So this character here, Faust, is from German folklore, and you'll find that German folklore plays a big part in these movies. And it's quite hard to describe, but what I can say about it is it's a really engaging movie, and also I think it's about a sort of movie where people have to make decisions, big decisions, and some of the actual storylines in here are quite a little bit extreme in parts, and I found myself really getting engaged with it. The fella who plays Faust, he is a great actor, and I think he pops up in a few of these movies, and I do find that you do see, especially in the German movies, you do see that these people do come back time and time again, and they can put just basic makeup on, and they can really transform themselves into like really good characters, believable characters as well. This movie here is, I think some of these movies are quite long as well. You'd be surprised that some of them, some are over 4 hours long, but this one isn't, but I think it is a quite long movie. But as Eureka does with all these ones, they put loads of booklets in it. You've got your DVD, your Blu-ray, so it's the best edition you're ever going to find of this, and well worth the money. And I think you can pick them up, underneath £10. So you're not going to sort of break the bank if you want to try these out and think, wow, that was a complete waste of time, if it was like maybe a Criterion, which was like £20-30. So that's number 10, that's Faust. Number 9 is 1928's The Passion of Joan of Arc. Now this movie here is obviously it's well known as a classic, and it was one of my list. It's been on my list for a long time, and I think I saw this in CX, I believe. It comes with all the booklets, so I picked it up immediately. And I've got to say that the hype is real on this movie. The character who plays, the actress who plays Joan of Arc, is unreal. Her portrayal of Joan of Arc is phenomenal, and all done without any words. Now, what it does is it talks about the trial of Joan of Arc, and I believe that this movie is quite close to the actual what the trial was. And in there you see what she has to go through to sort of prove that they think she's a witch, because she has visions of seeing God come to her and telling her things, because they think she's been a heretic, so they're going to trial her as a heretic. And this movie is it's a PG, believe it or not. I don't know how it's a PG, because it's quite it can be quite haunting at times. Now this lady here who was the played Joan of Arc, she got like lots of accolades for this movie, and I think she had a troubled time after it, if I'm honest. I don't know if it was from shooting the Joan of Arc movie, but I know that her mind was never the same after this movie, and it's sad to see that type of thing would happen these days. She would be a superstar, and obviously getting into a lot more films. To be honest, I don't know if she did anything more after this movie, but as a watch, it's really good. And I tell you what, these old movies, what they do is they fill the frame up with the person's face, and the people in there had to have interesting faces. So these people who are like putting her in Inquisition and trying to trial her for this, they've all got very odd faces, and they sort of focus on that, which is great, because these movies, which in black and white, I think it shows it up better. I don't know why, but black and white old faces look really good. So Joan of Arc is a classic. It's a tough watch, mind. It's not easy watch. It's not a laugh a minute by any means. It's a very emotional film, but a great film as well. So that's The Passion of Joan of Arc. So at number 8 is in the 1920 movie The Golem. This is a movie by Paul Wegener, and it does feature this sort of, it's back to the German folklore of this big stone monolith monster thing that came around and it can be put back to life. I do think this is the second or third movie in this series. The other two are lost, or the first one's lost. And I think this is a remake of the first one, I believe. And if I'm honest, for 1920, the picture quality on here looks stunning in places. It's so crystal clear that you can't believe what you're seeing. So the best thing about this movie for me is the look of the movie. The movie does feature German expressionism, which means that all these buildings are sort of weird looking, they're weird shapes. They must have been built for this this particular look of this strange thing. Nothing straight. All the buildings look odd, and it's just such a joy to watch. The story itself is quite good. This Golem comes to life, this stone man, and he's quite believable. I saw the picture of the Golem in an old horror magazine. I've been wanting to watch this film for a long time. So I'm quite late to this movie. I'm so glad it's been put out, because some of these movies you think you hear about, you would never ever see actually on physical media or even to watch. A lot of these films actually are on YouTube. So if you want to check them out on YouTube before you buy, you may think, well, I really like that. You may think, nah, that's not for me. It's not for everybody. But I do think that, I remember my wife coming through when I was watching one of these movies. My wife said, what on earth can you get out of this movie? And I said, you'd be surprised. I said, you just want to watch one of these movies and just get into the mindset of it and just see what you think. I don't think she will, but anyway, that's her thing. She doesn't want to do it. But I do urge anybody who's sitting on the fence, just check some out on YouTube. If you have a good time with them, by all means pick these up on physical media. And you'd be surprised at how good some of these presentations are. So that's 1920's The Golem. At number 7 is 1924's The Hands of Orlac. This stars the amazing Conrad Veidt, and this movie is it's a brilliant movie. It's one of the movies that I thought this is going to be all right, because Conrad Veidt's in it, so I can imagine it being, something I would like to watch. But I was really surprised at how good this movie is. I did a detailed review of this movie, so I'll put a link down below so you can find out more about this movie if you want to. But basically, it's a really, really decent film, and it's got a really good plot to it, and the plot's got lots of twists in it. Twists that I wasn't expecting, actually, to have in a 1924 movie. A lot of these movies are a lot more clever than you would think they are. You would think they'd be like one-dimensionals with just people overacting, and some of them do overact in these movies because I think that was the style at the time. So be aware that you're going to get people who aren't that lifelike in some of them, but some of them performances are absolutely amazing. Like Joan of Arc is just like, wow. I don't imagine many artists today could actually pull that one off. So yes, if you want to find out a lot more about this one, I'll put the link down below. So that's the 1924 film The Hands of Orlac. So at number 6 is 1926's The General. Now there's no way I could make this list without putting Buster Keaton into this list. I could put more of his movies in actually, but this is, for me, is his favourite movie, and this is his most accessible. And it is a sort of, I would say at that time, 1926, this would have been a blockbuster. The effects, I think the effects, if you've ever seen this movie, you'll know what the effect is I'm talking about. I'll not tell anybody what it is, but you probably have seen it on some kind of compilations of silent movies. But the effect was the most expensive effect ever shot, I think, for a long time actually. And these time, if you wanted to do an effect, you had to do it practically. Obviously, there was no. You could do a few special effects, but they wouldn't cost anything. But these special effects were like a lot of money when you had to do certain things. So this tells a true story of the American Civil War and this train here, the General, which has to make this journey through the enemy sort of barricades, and the stunts that Buster Keaton does, as he does in most of his movies, are just spectacular. I don't know how this bloke ever got through these stunts, some of them. I know he was really severely injured in some of them. I think he was injured in this one as well. I think he emptied some water from a container and it dropped on his head, and it was literally like having a ton of concrete put in your head because of the amount of water in it, and I think it hurt his back. So but it's absolutely, it's so good, it's so brilliant, it's so really engaging as well. It's a great story. And for me, it's his best sort of complete movie. It's great. It's not a great long one, but it's about the longest Buster Keaton one that you'll ever see. So that's 1926's The General. So at number 5 is 1929's Frau im Mond. That means Woman in the Moon. And that's what it is basically, but there's a lot more to it than that. This film's about 3 hours long. So some of these movies I've watched in 2 goes. I couldn't really sit through a whole 3 hours of silent movies. Not that that would get me nerves about the fact it's silent. It's just that it's quite a long, any movie that's 3 hours long is quite long to get through. So you've got to imagine in 1929 that space travel was like a thing that people would think you were absolutely nuts if you thought this was going to be a thing that would ever be real. And here we are, it is real. Now, I think what Fritz Lang did, he spent a lot of time talking to scientists about the possibilities of this and that and whatever, and they got a lot of things right in this movie. Yes, there's a few things that are quite wrong, but the fact is that they go to the moon and they can actually breathe on the moon without having a mask on. That was crazy, obviously, but you would never know. I mean, how would you know then? But this movie here is it's just absolutely brilliant. The storyline in here is quite good storylines, quite complex, but once you get into the fact of this man trying to get this missile to the moon, then it gets in. That's when it takes off, pun intended. So one of the best things about this movie is it features a woman who is the woman on the moon, and she is called Gerda Maurus. And I've got to admit, when you watch it, you think, now I'm a big fan of people's eyes. If someone's got some really interesting eyes, I just think that it's something that I really latch onto in a movie. Elizabeth Taylor, who had these spectacular eyes, which weren't violet, but because of the stuff in her eyes, when they were filmed in a certain way, they did turn a violet colour, which is mad. So if you ever want to see the best version, I think, of Elizabeth Taylor's eyes, watch Cleopatra. Anyway, getting back to the movie, this lady in here, I think she probably, although you couldn't tell, she probably had the bluest eyes you will ever see, because her eyes look white in a good way. And I couldn't take my eyes off her, actually. And her performance is outstanding in this movie. This whole movie is outstanding. And it's kind of like a love story as well, I would imagine. And it's a fascinating story to think that you're watching something from 1929 and they're talking about something that they could have no knowledge about, basically, because they had no way of doing this. And they get a lot of things correct. And I believe that this had the first ever, they had to do a countdown from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6 when they shoot the missile off. And I think that was the first time that was ever done. And I think people who have done missile launches since then took it off this movie, I believe. Could be wrong on that one. But it's so highly recommended, this movie. I could easily put this at number 1 sometimes. When I watch it, usually it goes high up on my list. It's absolutely brilliant. When I originally got it, I thought, it's a Fritz Lang movie, I'm going to try it out. I've got quite a lot of his silent movies, and it might be alright, it might not be, but wow, was I so impressed by this movie. So that's Frau im Mond. At number 4 is 1928's The Man Who Laughs. Now, if you've seen this movie, you will know how good it is. The performance by Conrad Veidt is literally one of the best performances in a silent movie you will ever see. This movie is absolutely captivating. It had me on the edge of my seat till the end of this movie. When it was the last, say, maybe 20 minutes, I was literally like in a panic. That just shows you how good that the storytelling can be with literally no words. Now, this story is from a famous book, and it tells a story of this person here who is disfigured, and he has a permanent smile on his face. And yes, when they did the Joker for the comics, they used this massive grin in the character in the comics. And I thought going into this was going to be a horror movie. It's not. It's more like a romance movie. But it tells this performance from Conrad Veidt, for him to act. You can tell when he's crying, you can tell when he's upset, you can tell when he's happy, and he's got the same expression on his face. He does it all with his eyes. It's absolutely, if you've got to see this movie just to see this performance, if you want to know what the best performance is in a silent movie, then this is it. And I don't imagine anybody who has seen this movie will disagree with that point. It's next level good. I don't think anybody could pull this off today. I don't think this movie would benefit from a remake. I don't think this movie would be better with any language in it. I just think that this movie is a perfect movie, and this is another one that could easily be number 1. Every now and again it pops up and I think, oh, this is just so good, I could put number 1, but these other ones in front of it are just a little bit more special. So that's highly recommended. I mean, all of these are, I could imagine you having a good time with any of these movies, and I must admit, I think all of these are available on YouTube in some form. So like I say, try before you buy. You just don't know, you might find that this silent movie genre might appeal to you. So that's The Man Who Laughs, highly recommended. At number 3 is 1920's The Cabinet of Dr Caligari. Now this stars again Conrad Veidt, and this is claimed to be the first ever horror movie, and I would agree with that. Now this is directed by Robert Veen. So the story behind this is that this travelling show comes to town, and Dr Caligari has this zombie fella that he says is dead, and he can resurrect them, and he's under a sort of like hypnotized. So this character here, who's played by Conrad Veidt, amazingly as well. You've probably seen a lot of pictures of this movie, and it's got the best sort of example for me is German expressionism, because all the scenes in here are obviously hand painted and just look absolutely spectacular. It's a joy to watch. It looks really good as well. It's got a one of them movies where it's on a 4K restoration. This is 1920. This, you think that these are the ones that are going to come, I reckon in the next 2 or 3 years, you're going to definitely see a 4K restoration of a silent movie. But if this is a 4K restoration on Blu-ray, then you might not get too much of an uptick. But I'm prepared to go to that, because I would love to get these movies in the best possible format that you can. I just think they're so watchable. I could watch these time and time again. Some of them are very long, some of them are quite short as well. But you will get a horror movie actually that came out in 1920. They're quite spooky in their own way. And if you think about if you are seeing this type of thing for the first time in a big screen at your cinema, I could imagine a lot of people being freaked out by this type of thing. So that's The Cabinet of Dr Caligari. So at number 2 is 1927's Metropolis. This is a sci-fi classic. I can't explain how good this movie is. If you've seen the Queen video, the music video, Radio Gaga, you would have seen some of this movie in there. The special effects for the time were quite good actually. They've got some really good special effects that you would think, wow, how did they do that at that time? How did they know how to do that at that time? Now this movie is one of the movies that has been kind of lost and found, although they haven't found every part of it yet. There's a few instances in these movies where they've got to kind of put a little bit of a card in, which will say in this scene something was going to happen, because it might not flow too well, and they've got to kind of say this is the missing scene, but it would have shown this character doing this, and it kind of makes more sense. So don't be surprised if you see a few of them things in there. They have sort of these little titles as well, when they have these little cards coming up, and they'll say, you know, such and such says this to that person, but usually there's not that many in there. But this movie for me is it looks spectacular. It's quite long as well, and it's been through a really painstaking restoration. So the last restoration on here was done in 2010. I can imagine that we've come on leaps and bounds since then. So I could think that this movie, if it gets a 4K release, could look spectacular. Now these are the big names in silent movies, and I would think that these would be the ones that they would tackle first, because I would imagine a lot of people who have heard of silent movies would have heard of Metropolis, Cabinet of Dr Caligari, that type of thing, Passion of Joan of Arc. So those would be the ones that you'd be going for mainly. I know Eureka don't have anything to do with 4K, but that means nothing really. They could license it to somebody else or get someone else to do it for them. I would like to see them go into the 4K realm, because who knows, they might be able to turn up some great stuff. So that's highly recommended. The movie itself, I must admit, it's only till recently I've actually watched it and really understood it. Why it does what it does. It's all about workers in Germany in the future, and it's about the fact that they're just going to work all the time like robots, but there's a lot more to it than that. And stunning special effects, and the scenes in here are colossal as well. They had to build them obviously by scratch. They couldn't do any sort of special effects with it. So if you see something with a person that big and a huge thing behind them, you would know that was made from scratch. Absolutely incredible to look at these sets as well. That's another thing about these movies. They had to create mainly probably all of these sets from scratch. So if you see a big, huge, massive thing, you would know it was big, huge and massive, and they would have to create it. So that's Metropolis. So at number 1 is 1922's Nosferatu. This was directed by F.W. Murnau as well, and it's perfection. It's a horror film. First and foremost, it looks stunning. The action, the pace of the movie is brilliant as well. So when this movie came out in 1922, they used the novel Dracula by Bram Stoker as a source for their story. And the widow of Bram Stoker sued them and won. So they had to destroy all the prints of this movie. Now they didn't destroy everything, obviously, and some survived, and this movie's been put together, and it looks pretty good actually, because I was thinking, wow, if this was one of the ones that was you know, destroyed, and you were having to go to maybe to like a copy that was like massive copy down the line, it would look horrendous. And it doesn't. It looks pretty good. It doesn't look as good as the other ones because obviously the way that they've had to get this prints from all here, there and everywhere, it's a bit lower in the quality, but it doesn't take anything away from it. It's still a stunning movie. And Max Schreck, who plays the character in here, Nosferatu, is absolutely iconic. He is someone you would know, everyone would know, like Dracula's look and all that, from Christopher Lee to Bela Lugosi to some of the newer incarnations of Dracula, which I'm not too keen on. But this one here is the other iconic look to Dracula. And he looks, the place that they put this the setting in, this German sort of this really strange castle, which exists till today, believe it or not, because it looks like it's going to fall off the mountain. It's so odd. You've never seen anything look like this thing that kind of is on the edge of a cliff and it kind of pops out and it looks like it's just going to drop off. So you can still go and actually visit that castle as a tour. And I would love to go there. Actually, it's actually hardly ever changed since this movie was shot, if you can believe. So that's number one, Nosferatu 1922. So I must admit I have a great time in these movies. Every time I see a silent movie coming out, I do try and buy it, and I find that I am always pleased with what I see. I don't think there's been one yet that I've thought, well, that was a waste of time watching that. I always feel like I've been given a bit of a treat. And the amazing thing is, everything I hold in my hand here is probably everybody associated with these movies is probably long gone. And it's amazing to think that I would love to go in a time machine and say to these people, maybe they thought they were going to make something that would last for 5 minutes. You could say, hey, do you know what, 100 years in the future, we will be loving these movies that you created back then, and they'll be classed as absolute classics of cinema. So, thanks for watching, you take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.